That it's 6:30.
Love that thing.
All right, once again, take two. Seeing that it's 6:30, we'd like to call the Town of Belgrade Board of Select Persons December 21, 2021 meeting to order. All right, we'll start with the Pledge of Allegiance. Oh, where's the flag? I
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, I'll take a motion to open the meeting. So moved and seconded. And there's Ricky. All right, all those in favor, Ricky. Can you hear us, Rick? We can't hear him. Are you saying anything? Your lips are moving, but I can't hear what you're saying.
I don't think we're online yet.
Oh, there we go. Oop, there he is. So Rick, are you okay if we open the meeting? You're muted now on your side. We'll start this way. Barbara?
Yes.
Carol? All right, 3 yeses.
Yes.
Woo! All right, we're officially in session. Whew, that was painful.
Well, you got to turn your speaker on, I guess. I didn't do it.
Wasn't me. All right, so first up, we have public comment. And this is the portion of the meeting where you have the chance to speak up about anything that may not be covered on this evening's agenda. Is there anyone who has something they would like to bring to the select board's attention? All right, seeing none, we'll move right on to to old business. So first up, we have the approval of the December 5. Should actually not be considered a Board of Select Persons meeting. That's a budget workshop.
Oh, okay.
So if we just change the titling on that, but I'll take a motion to open that item.
So moved.
And a second,
Second.
moved and seconded. Now it's up for discussion. If we could just change that.
And change the time because we started at 11
Oh, that's right.
and not at 5. We're starting January 5th at 5.
All right, did anybody see anything else?
No, looked fine to me.
All right, good catch on that. I looked right over it. All right, so all those in favor, Barbara,
Yes.
Carol,
Yes.
Ricky?
Yes.
All right, 4 yeses. Next up, we have the Board of Select Persons December 7, 2021 meeting minutes. I'll take a motion to open that.
So moved.
Second.
And seconded. It's up for discussion.
Looked okay to me.
All right, seeing none. You got anything, Ricky?
No. Oh, good.
One thing I did want to note on that, Anthony, you're doing a great job with the meeting minutes, but sometimes we have those addendums in there, like the next thing that we've got to make sure we do is update this policy and bring this back to the board, and we're kind of eliminating some of those.
Okay.
And I'm afraid what's going to happen is we're not going to remember to catch back up with those.
Okay.
So Bruce
Are
had.
you referring to like the refund policy?
The refund policy and the bottle box applications, I know they had said that they would look at updating the
You
policy.
know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna write it over there real quick.
Yeah, we're loving that whiteboard. But that's all I had on that. Does anybody have anything else? Nope. All right, seeing none. Ricky,
Yes.
Carol,
Yes.
Barbara.
Yes.
All right, 4 yeses. We're good to go with those. All right, under new, oh, sorry, and then we have discussion and consideration of the roads committee recommendations. Are we considering this tonight, Anthony, or are we having a discussion about it and then we're going to bring that to the budget meeting in January?
Well, I guess that's up to the board. you know, we're hoping to get some clarity because we may need to get the law firm, Bernstein Sure, to start working on a warrant article for us for that. But I will tell you sort of what and Jason is online with us this evening too. So I will tell you sort of what I found in talking with the road managers and gardeners in Solon, because there was concern about whether chip seal caused flat tires. They said that has not been an issue in either of their communities. That happens to match what my experience with chip sealing has been. The biggest drawback, and this is not a surprise to me either, the road commissioner in Solon said that there is some loose gravel after it's been newly chip sealed. And so what happens is a day or so after that, a street sweeper comes along and gets rid of that extra aggregate, and that rid of the extra gravel there. But, and I hadn't really thought about it in these terms, but it does make sense. They said that chip sealing actually increases the traction because of the space between the chips. It causes roads to thaw more quickly. It holds salt better in the winter, which kind of makes sense because that salt can get into those crevices, and it prevents hydroplaning. You know, Jason had a good observation. I thought he said, you know, to me, this is a more effective and efficient form of crack sealing because you're just doing the entire road all at one time as opposed to doing individual cracks. We both went out and looked at Old Route 27, and it's our opinion that road is beyond pavement preservation, which is what chip sealing is. That it really needs to be rebuilt. It's just too far gone. And so, you know, we sort of return back to the road committee's recommendation to chip seal 2 roads, those being the east-west lane, now to give us a neighborhood road, and the Minot Hill Road, which is a more heavily traveled through road. So that would give us an experience with 2 different types of roads and trying chip seal. And then the rest of the information is as I presented it to you previously, although there's also still the question of whether to repay the bond over 2 years or 3 years. I did solicit the budget committee's recommend or thoughts on that. And the only response I got was from Jack, and I've shared that with you, I think in a previous email, but I also printed that out for you. I'm glad Jack's here if he wants to wax about that particular approach.
Yeah. I would recommend that we continue on with the 3 years. Number one, to maintain the continuity of the 3-year major program. And have everybody understand that it is a 3-year program rather than a variable program. When we first started this program, this series of programs, back 6 years ago, we were looking at about $400,000 to be raised the first year and then borrowed the difference, $800,000 and $400,000 for a total of $1.2 billion over the 3-year program, plus the cost of borrowing. And we came in a little bit less than that this last year. And this year, I'm going to talk in round numbers because I think that in budgeting for this type of work at this level, anything lower than $1,000 increment is silly anyway. It's just noise. So I'm going to say that this year's budget rounded off looks like around $800,000, the whole thing. And I would suggest that be funded. Putting a budget committee out on now, I would suggest that be funded at the first year of $250,000 raised, $50,000 from the road reserve for $300,000, and then $300,000 for the next 2 years, which is lower than we started 6 years ago, plus the borrowing costs, whatever they may be, and I don't know what they'll be. Yeah, I think it would be small, but it will be lower. It will be larger than last year. If we did that, we may come in under budget when the bids come in, or maybe slightly over. I think there's enough in the road committee so that the board, if the board chooses, can fund any difference from at its own vote, can fund any difference from the road committee reserve as well, so that we don't give our hand away too badly in publicizing what we have to spend, which I don't think is a good practice, if we can avoid it. That's what I would recommend. And, it would still be quite a bit less than what we started with 6 years ago to do one series of roads in town. It would start to be a payoff in what I hope would be long-term savings in the way we manage our roads in town.
What about if we do it in 3 years, we then wouldn't get to the North Belgrade roads for 3 more years?
We may have to make an exception with the Horse Point Road, because there's a stretch of the Horse Point Road that it's not good.
And what about the other roads that would be, if we did it 3 years, it would push them out? I mean, are we,
Well, in the meantime, we've been trying to take care of our roads with crack sealing and with shoulder work, and we're spending a little more money on our road maintenance.
yeah,
Deliberately, so
So,
that we can extend the life of whatever we have done.
and so Carol, that may be a question for Jason. Jason, do you feel comfortable with holding off on addressing those North Belgrade roads for 3 years?
Yeah, I think 3 years would be okay. So the cracks, the chip sealing might be an advantage to saving some of these roads in the future. Once we do it on Minot Hill, maybe we can do more of that in the future to help save like the Horse Point Road and different roads. So if that works out on that road, maybe we can do more of that to help save the roads before they get too bad, I guess. So I don't know.
are there any of those North Belgrade roads that should be, if we chip seal them in year 3, we'd save them, but if we wait, I guess I'm saying that extra years, is there anything that would be critical to?
I think the Horse Point Road and them roads, I mean, they'll fare well in the next 3 years. I don't think they're gonna go completely bad. I think they'll be
There-
all for 3 more
There's
years.
that one section on the Horse Point Road that's already pretty gnarly.
Yeah,
Is-
maybe we could take some money and chip seal that in a year or two if it really got bad. I don't know if we could, if that's possible or anything, but
So if we
thousand
put together, yeah, so if we put together a 3-year plan on these roads, but we see that there's other roads in town that are gonna need attention,
right.
and we're not locked into just these, correct, for the next 3 years, if something comes up that we need to address.
Right.
Bruce?
2 things. One, good road for you guys to look at. I'm not sure if it's Gardner or West Gardner, but it's a Stevenson Town Road. And Anthony's correct on the sand salt, that road melted extremely fast.
I checked with West Gardner, so they have not done chip
So it
sealing.
must be Gardner.
Yeah, so they're watching some of the other towns.
And that has heavy dump truck and milk truck traffic on that road. The other thing I was wondering is where we're at 800,000 roughly for the budget, and would it be a smart thing to do that section of the Horse Point Road, either chip seal it and to try to save it, or?
Yeah. Well, and I don't want people to confuse chip sealing with paving, because
Correct.
it's 2 different things. And so what we don't want to do is chip seal something that we plan on rebuilding over the next 3 years. And so,
Why?
well, because it's not paving. So chip sealing is meant to preserve pavement that's already in decent condition. Once it gets to a certain point, Melanie, it doesn't really help, because what you're trying to do is prevent the further deterioration of a road. And so what you may want to do, though, is something like one of the things that the Gardner Public Works Director talked to me about is doing some coal pack and then chip seal over that. And then that might be a way to address a situation at the Horse Point Road. But I think we just have to be really strategic about not investing money in a road, on a stretch of road that we then are gonna rebuild in, 2 or 3 years. I agree with, whoever said it earlier, that maybe if that is a stretch of road that's really concerned, then maybe we do look at doing that in 2 years, or maybe we include it in this package and increase the cost of this package.
I guess that's what I'm getting at is whether to, because that one, it's the beginning of it. I mean, it was all ground, and Jason can comment on it if I'm wrong, but I think that was all ground and reclaimed when they did that flood area, when they paved that, I believe, but I'm not, I think I remember that being ground and redone then.
I don't know if they grounded. I know he built it up, at least a foot of gravel, maybe even 2 feet of gravel, and they repaved. I don't know if he grounded, or if they gravelled right over the top of the pavement. But that section is real good. Most of it's good. Right by the S curves going up, heading back towards Route 8. There's a big crack in the road. It's pretty wide now, and maybe if we had extra money, we could chip seal that section. Because maybe that's too far gone for crack sealing. Maybe, I don't know. I mean, it's a thought.
So, but then Anthony's saying that you can't do the chip sealing over that if the road is already too far gone. So if there's a stretch there where the crack is pretty big, what are your suggestions that we could do to essentially put a Band-Aid on it that is a strong enough Band-Aid, like a fabric one and not the other kind, so that.
Maybe like Anthony said, maybe we got to put some coal patch in it, then chip seal it. I guess you got to talk with whoever does the chip sealing and see what their suggestions. They do it all the time. I mean, I'm not a professional at it, obviously, as far as installing the chip sealing and everything. So
Is it Allstate that does it? I'm trying to remember which
Yes.
one. Okay, because I knew I brought that in. I was thinking state paving, but that's the different one.
Well, if we chip seal those 2 roads, we're going to save on the original budget we planned.
Well, so the $800,000 that Jack was talking about includes chip seal.
Okay, I was gonna say, because maybe we just put some of that money back in to take care of that portion of Horse Point Road now and not let it become worse and have
Right.
people really concerned over it.
Right, if it's not going to be dealt with.
If
for
we're not gonna deal with it for
4
3 years, then we really should do whatever we need to the part that's so bad.
I mean, what is that? That's less than a mile from there to Route 8, correct? Or just about a mile?
yeah, probably about a mile.
Because it's bad up around Bill Tukey's too, isn't it?
Yeah,
Right down to-
if you could just start almost right where the flood area stopped and go right from there to Route 8, would be probably close to a mile.
And then the rest of the road would need to be redone a few years after that.
Yeah, the rest of the road's holding up pretty good. It's all gravel up towards the other end of the road, so it's got pretty good gravel base. It seems to hold up fairly well, so.
Well, I suppose you'd lose some efficiency because what we try to do is group roads in geographic areas. And so if whoever does the paving then has to go like to North Belgrade to do a patch of that. But what we could do is I could get some more information from the Gardner Public Works Director about cold patch with a treatment on top of that. And then we could also run the numbers on, what it would cost just to pave that bad portion of the Horse Point Road as part of this package.
Well, and Jason, honestly, I would ask Allstate. I would say, I don't know if you remember going in to talk to Melanie Jewell at O'Connor's a couple of years ago. She brought it forward. You said you'd try to work a deal with the town of Belgrade if you could get in and start with some of that. What are they willing to do for a deal? Like we're finally opening the door a little bit, and in 2019, they slammed it right shut.
Okay.
So it's open a little bit. Maybe they're willing to get in. And because they said, we're willing to come up, we're willing to teach you guys about it, we're willing to
Right,
see what your thoughts are.
yeah. The chip sealing is all new to me. I've never dealt with it, so I don't really know much about it, so to be honest.
That's it, Melanie. Maybe we should ask if someone could come up, take a look at the roads that we're looking at, offer a suggestion.
Yeah, because they've been doing it and they're the ones that are doing it. And they brought it forward and said, listen, we've gone to 2 town managers and were kind of kindly shown the door. So if they were finally giving them an option, have them take a look at it and offer their suggestions too. What are your thoughts, Chuck?
I don't think there's any question, but what the 3-year program is a guideline. I think it's a good guideline. But if there is something that needs to be done within that 3-year period, whatever it is, and it's a safety issue, it's a good road issue in town, strong enough one, then we need to do it. We need to put it before the board or the town and get it done. So I have no objection at all, but talking about doing something up on the Horse Point Road, if it really needs to be done inside of the 3-year program.
Okay. So I like the 3-year plan, only because, if nothing else, it gives us these, I've been a stickler about 3-year plan, a 5-year plan, a 10-year plan, so that we don't have big spikes in certain budgets because we don't know, we're not keeping up with the maintenance or, so I think if we have those blocks where we are actively planning what we're going to be doing and how we're going to get there, I think it's easier to explain to the customer, the citizens, that this is the steps we're taking, this is the process, this is what'll come next. And if they can see that clear, linear progress, they're generally happier and less grumbly because they know where their money's going and they know we are addressing the roads. So I like the 3-year. Does anyone else have options, any thoughts?
Well, I was interested in the 2-year primarily because it would get us to the other roads that need attention in a shorter period of time. But if we can address some of the problems in the meantime, then maybe that counters the argument. If we, because I don't want to end up spending more money in 4 years because we neglected roads that should have been dealt with sooner.
Right.
So that's my only concern. But I like Jack's clarification that this is a guideline, this is not hard and fast, and that, we can adjust as necessary. But if we want to add in the Horse Point Road, I think we should consider doing that in this 3-year plan.
Well, my
Or at least
thought
the
too with the
one- that
Horse
one
Point
round
Road
product.
is if we have 275 in the roads committee reserve, then maybe if it's 30,000 to put cold patch down and chip seal a section, if they come back with something and we say, do we raise and appropriate this, or do we appropriate this out of the reserve account? And then it's not adding to your tax burden, it's money that the taxpayers have already contributed.
Well, in Jack's scheme, in the first year, it's raising 250 and using 50,000 from the road reserve.
Right, which would leave 225.
Yeah, and that reserve will grow a little bit this year, not as much as it has the last couple of years, because Jason's put his budget to good use this year, but it will grow a little bit simply because we didn't have as many, we didn't have to buy as much sand and salt this year as we had budgeted for.
Yeah, winter's not over yet, though. I love those times we're in the middle of the winter, we're like, we're out. Can we get some, please? Yeah, exactly. We gotta lay some in.
Well, this is the kind of thing that the road reserve is for.
Right.
If we need something that's outside our normal budget process, we got time to do it.
Right. So Jason, are you comfortable calling them and having them come take a look with you and
Yeah.
offer their suggestions? You can tell them to come see me at O'Connor's too. I'll be like, yeah. I still have your card in my desk, guys.
Yeah, I'll have them look at the Horse Point Road and see what they think about that, and talk to them about the Minot Hill Road and that type of stuff. I know the Minot Hill Road's a good candidate for it, so that and East West Road, so. Yep.
All right, perfect. So 2 years. Ricky, what are your thoughts? 2 or 3?
I think I'd rather stay with the 3, just so that we don't have spikes up and down. I think that's the way I'd go.
Okay.
I would like to see it go back to the budget committee and not make a vote on it tonight.
Yeah, and I've got one more thing I want to follow up with once we get through.
I guess I don't have a problem with a 3-year plan, but I guess I want us to, if we know the Horse Point Road is a problem, and we know it needs to be done before we get to the next 3-year plan, why don't we just incorporate what we need to do in this thing and put it out over 3 years?
Well, and I think that's what we'll do. We'll get the opinion from
Otherwise I
experts.
will look for 2 years so we could get to those other roads earlier.
Yeah.
But if we can take care of the problem one in this 3-year plan, makes sense to me.
So the Minot Hill Road is roughly how long? Probably a
About
little mile.
a mile. maybe.
So if the Horse Point Road, what we had to fix was about a mile, we need about the same amount of money. Was it like 30 grand?
Well, that was for chip seal, but for the
Yeah. I mean, if we chip sealed that section,
but the reconstruction of the Minot Hill Road would cost $175,000. So
right, what I was saying is if we did the chip sealing on the Horse Point Road from the flood zone back up to Route 8, would be about 30 grand, other than if we had to do some coal patching first to fill in some voids.
And I don't have any idea what cold patch costs.
But then are we gonna end up, in another couple of years, are we gonna end up having to repave the whole thing?
Well, and I think that's
Yes.
where we,
That's-
I think
that's
that's
the
where we get the opinion of our experts to
Mm.
find out sort of what their recommendation would be on the most effective and efficient use of our dollars.
Yeah,
Okay,
and if they think we'll get, through the next phase by doing this, then that would get us to the next round of which roads we're doing. We'd be in North Belgrade, and then we could do, whatever they've got to do. Dig them up, grind them
I
up.
think the
put 'em
Horse
back
Point Road
down.
will make it. I know. I'm with Jason. I think it would make it for the next 3 years if that's what you decide to do. I don't think it's that much worse. Except out by the stop sign where always have to fix it where the truck stop on a hot day, it breaks up a little bit. The rest of it will be fine.
Yep, just that one area up in the Esco is just getting a big crack in it, but that could be fixed with coal patch and stuff, but.
Absolutely.
What are your thoughts, Dan?
3 years.
So it looks like we're 3 years wins. So I think we're in agreement on the 3 years, and then if we can check with Allstate and just have them do a recommendation, if they think, do we need to put the cold patch down first, or, they're the ones who do it, so what would they do? And then bring that back if we can.
And while they're looking around too, on Minot Hill Road, right in front of Hammond's, right by Hammond's driveway, there's a couple places that we've coal patched potholes. If we can find out what it would cost to actually cut those out, put the tire in there, compact it correctly, and then chip seal the whole thing, rather than just fill the whole coal patch again, so I think it's just gonna break up again.
So just there at the junction of the Minot Hill Road and the Depot Road?
No,
No, it's right-
you know where
Mike Hammond.
Mike Hammond's,
Oh,
it's right at the end of his drive, right
Oh,
where his
okay.
driveway is. That's
Okay.
one that I've actually told you about a couple times, and it's coming back again.
Yeah, when you said Hammond's, I thought you meant the lumber company.
No.
Okay.
Okay, we'll look at that.
That's the only real potholes on that road, so we might as well fix it right. Try to
Oh,
save that
whoops.
road.
Got to turn that down. Sorry, everyone. All right, do we need, and then you said something, Anthony, about getting this to the attorney?
Yeah, so if we were gonna bond this, then we're gonna need the attorney's help with that. And it appeared to me from the 2018 annual report for the 2019 warrant, there was a whole page in there dedicated to the bond issue. And it looked like it was perhaps done by our attorneys. Am I mistaken about that? Do you recall?
I don't remember, but I mean, I wasn't on back on board.
I know, I was just thinking like, oh,
Well, so I'll make a copy of that and send it to you guys and see, and I'll ask Mary tomorrow what her recollections of how that was done.
oh, she'll know.
Yeah.
Although it could have been her hiatus in Augusta, so she may not know. So,
Yeah, it was a whole sheet, and it actually had Melanie Alexander's signature on it. So it just looked like a legal document.
okay.
Probably would be for a
It
bond.
could have been.
Yeah. Whatever steps we gotta take. But if we do that at the beginning of January, we should still be okay with that.
And hopefully the interest rates will stay low, at least through March.
I think they will.
So if the bond is in year 2, we would still need to get your voter approval this year.
Correct. And what we'll be doing is seeking their approval to raise and appropriate a certain amount of money and then also finance a certain amount of money.
Sound good to everybody? All right, next we have new business. First up is consideration of the bids for the sale of the surplus fire department tanker truck. I'll take a motion, to open that item. That item is open for discussion.
Thank you.
Good night, Jack. Drive
Night, Jack.
careful. And I won't see you before. Merry Christmas.
I recommend we go with Dan's recommendation for the highest bidder.
Second.
Like what you two, 1, 2.
So moved and seconded. Is there any further discussion? All right, seeing none. I say that we award the bid to Asian Auto Services out of Plastow, New Hampshire for $5,432.12. Make that motion. Do we have to do that?
Rick moved and Dan
Rick
second.
moved and seconded. Okay. Barbara. Carol.
Yes.
Dan.
Yes.
Ricky.
Yes,
All right, 5 yeses. Was in a weird spot, so I was like, where'd that end up going? All right, next up, we have discussion of the town's heating fuel assistance policy. Take a motion, to open that item.
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. That item is open for discussion.
Yes, question on that. Does it really need to be changed because we have other sources to assist people rather than the town? In fact, I think that's what was gonna happen on the last incident, or last case, I should say, not incident. And it didn't have to, but I'm not sure we need to change much on that.
See, and I wondered, Rick, if we shouldn't do November through May. And the reason being, last year in May, we had someone who ran out of fuel and didn't qualify for GA. But we had the money in the emergency assistance fund, so we agreed to fill their tank, so that was in May. And most of us in November are trying to get the tank filled, or whatever your fuel is, so that's why I wondered if we should do like a November to May instead.
But I guess, I think what happened last time, we didn't go to the other channel of people that's got money for energy assistance, and we could have. And we did.
So essentially, so you don't want to use this emergency fuel fund unless they've exhausted other sources.
Unless they qualify for it.
But this, this fuel assistance fund is for people who don't qualify for GA.
I
So
understand,
maybe-
but
maybe
I think there's other sources out there people can go and ask for without kind of be putting under the microscope, telling everything they need. You know what I'm trying to say, and kind of keeping the personal stuff to themselves. I think that ought to be an option if available.
What would those sources be?
There's local churches that assist a little
Yes.
bit.
In fact, there's quite a little bit of money at one of the churches I know to do this a few years ago. In fact, I asked Mary about a deal the other day on it, if that was still going, and I believe she told me it was.
Yeah, there's been a few times where we really haven't spent anything through the town and actually the churches have. You know, it kind of keeps the people from feeling they're asking for a handout from the town, and the town, all the people in town are looking at them. So it's almost like the food pantry. It's one of those
Yeah.
areas I know we try to be careful with.
Kind of what I'm saying. Keep it a little more private.
I don't necessarily have a problem if we extend the dates a little bit. And that way, if it's absolutely needed and they can't get it somewhere else, even if it's November 15th to May 15th.
Right, because my other thought too is even if folks do qualify for GA, like to get in under that heat program, you essentially have to have your application in April of the year before in order for them to give you any fuel assistance for that year. And I think if people have lost their jobs or fall on hard times or,
Well, the LIHEAP program right now, I had some constituents contact me trying to get into it. And basically they called them LIHEAP and they said, we can't even talk to you until March of next year.
right? And that's the thing is you'll see sometimes on, folks are like, oh, there's heating assistance, call this number. I'm like, they're not gonna help you. They're gonna tell you, see you in 2022 and get your application in, which I think is kind of a crappy way to handle a heating assistance program, but.
Yeah.
I
And
mean, I think if we have money available and it's only because it was 5 days or something before it could be used, I just think we should open it up. That's what the money's there for. If it's available and the need is there. I mean, this person had to go, what, 3 or 4 other places before they found something, which
Yeah,
is
they made
when
this-
you're in the, if you're in that mode and you don't have money, and we have it sitting here available and they quote qualify for it, then
But you also got to remember that if we had given it to them in November, yes, in another emergency, we give it to them one more time, but who says January, February, I'm gonna be super, super cold and they might be back in town looking for a couple
well,
more.
But at least they will have had a full tank for
yeah.
a couple of months.
And I was just gonna make the same point. It's important to keep in mind, this is for all intents and purposes of one
One
time per
time.
year
Right.
thing. And so someone who's really down on their luck may have to use additional sources throughout the
Sources to
winter
do
time.
it.
Well, and we set this fund up for this purpose. We set this fund up when heating fuel prices started skyrocketing. And I mean, I remember what a pickle I was in when that happened, because it $4 something a gallon for oil and I didn't have a backup source of heat. And even filling my tank 3 times in a winter, that was really freaking rough.
Well, and I let you guys know about a generous donation that we got last week, and I know that donor said to me that she really wanted it to be used for the community and for people in need. So I do think that there are people in our community who want to donate to it and see that it be used.
But I also, the way this policy is set up, it's the town manager who can make the decision, right?
On the second unit.
On the second one, but on the first one, town manager and or other town of Belgrade municipal officials. I mean, it seems like in terms of someone's privacy, it seems like it's set up so that they wouldn't have to come in person, because that's stipulated. That, and it just, it
Well,
seems like it's
They have to
not,
come into the town manager. They have to provide the
yeah,
documentation.
but it seems like it's not. It's not something that everybody would necessarily know the business, so.
No, but it's like any other small town.
Yeah. Well,
People end
and,
up knowing everybody's business.
and so,
I'm out of it. I don't
So
know. I don't know anybody's
so when someone
business.
comes in, and we had 2 instances this week where people needed help. And so the first thing we do is ask them to fill out a general assistance application, and that's always done, any discussions that happen are in my office with the doors closed. The applications are kept under lock and key. And so I'm the only one who knows who's applied, who's been approved, and who's not been approved. And so that's sort of the first step to getting their information to see, as Melanie said, first, do you qualify for GA? Because that's the first point that we want to direct people to.
And the other thing that I would like to have stricken from this is we have the following individual and members of their families shall be ineligible to receive funds through this program. And, I don't feel like anybody should be excluded. Like I said to Anthony, like we have no way of knowing. We've had select board members, myself included, You know, when I got divorced, I had nothing. I had $143 in the checkbook. So to say that I couldn't have come before the town and asked for help, I think is wrong. When you say members of their families, it's like saying, you know, if my daughter's living on her own and she's making minimum wage, she can't ask for help. And I think that we don't have any business excluding people based on what we think it is that they make or qualify for. So I think if we open it to folks that are ineligible for general assistance, then it should be open to folks who live in the community that don't qualify for general assistance, but need a helping hand. You all are free to rebut me.
Well, if somebody, I guess I looked at this, that if immediate family member, if they're living on their own, they wouldn't be, I wouldn't consider that an immediate family member. Now, maybe I'm incorrect in
It should
that.
have been immediate family members within the same household. That's what it really should have been.
So that they
So you wouldn't
can't,
have-
so you couldn't
You
collect
wouldn't have the
under
father
this
come in
one,
and get it, the mother come in and get it, and then the 15-year-old.
or the mother-in-law.
20-year-old is
or-
living with them or
Yeah.
something, so that.
Right.
So if you say they're immediate family in the household, but,
And maybe that what we can do
Or
is we
immediate
can
household
tweak it that
Yeah.
it's,
right,
you know, one per household,
Yeah.
one household unit.
well, you just have to define household.
Right. Yeah, and I think that was what was originally what it was supposed to be. It just didn't work, right?
Well, and is to keep a closed group of people giving the money for themselves, so.
Does anybody have a problem like getting rid of that section?
I don't
And
have
the
a
ration,
problem.
the rationale is that town employees and select people,
Well, select people wouldn't be eligible for it because it's a conflict of interest, as far as I'm concerned. I understand the idea of needing the assistance, but as a selectman, honestly, because you're
even though.
making the
select-
policies, I don't think you can be eligible for it.
Even though select people don't vote on this, I mean, the only person who would know is the town manager.
You know, we write the policies, though. So,
If you had that situation, I mean, now as I'm thinking that, could you come and ask for a special hearing or a
Exception.
special exception, or,
Exception.
I didn't think of that when I was reading through it, so.
Well, and I had the same thought when I read this, Carol, for, you know, for maybe for those people, you know, A through D, select persons through the immediate family. Maybe there's another layer where maybe it's not just the town manager, but maybe it's the town manager plus the select board chair, or the town manager plus the select board vice chair, depending upon the circumstances.
Yeah,
So that's, it's not just one person, it's two people to sort of prevent any hanky panky.
I mean, I guess I could envision it might be a full-time municipal employee, and if there are two incomes in the household and the other person loses their income, and then but then that employee couldn't come, seems a little,
yeah, I mean,
Restrictive.
I wouldn't have a problem taking out the municipal employee,
yeah,
because they're not, again, they're not writing the policy, they're not deciding who's eligible, who's not eligible.
yeah.
I mean,
Yeah, I don't know. What are your thoughts, Ricky?
I agree that people probably shouldn't be on there, because I think that's where you get into a gray area, that we're the ones that make a policy and we can't benefit from anything that we make of a policy. It's like a job. If you wanted to run for the road commissioner and we just created that position, you can't do that. I think that's the same ruling. I don't see where a family member can. But the select people definitely can. And we have helped people, we've helped select people in the past that have had problems. And we have gone another route to help them, so.
But if it's a family member in the same household as the select person, then that would benefit the select person.
Right.
So it'd have to be family members, that would still have to stay for family members.
Would have to
I
have
remember what
immediate
you-
Or
Yeah.
people living in the same
In the
household.
household.
Family member living in the same household is ineligible of a select person or a town
Or
manager.
select persons and anyone in that
And how do you
house.
define
anyone
family?
who-
So-
Right, I was just gonna say select persons or anyone living in that house.
In that
In
house.
the
residing in
household
the
of
house,
the
yeah.
select person. But I would take out the full-time municipal employees.
And I would get rid of immediate families. And if we had select persons,
Immediate family can still be in there, they just can't be living in the same household.
right, that's what
Right,
I'm
that's
saying,
what I'm
if we take out immediate
Just
families, so
clarifying
get
that.
rid of that. And put under select persons, maybe select persons, town manager. And or. Any other adults living and residing in the household.
Yeah.
Do you want living or
And you
residing?
know,
I would just say select persons and residing in that household, just make it a smaller, short sentence.
I was just gonna put
Town man-
select
town
persons,
manager.
town manager, or any other adults living /
So you're
residing.
just gonna get rid of it, combine it all. as
Yeah,
part of it.
just combine it into
Yeah,
one.
that's fine. Town manager can't manage his money and buy some heating oil. But, I'm gonna come over and do some financial coaching, because we know what you make.
that seems like a rather pointed statement.
What's the guy on the radio?
Dave Ramsey?
Yes, thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, I follow Dave Ramsey. Yes.
You know,
And
the-
I would support expanding the time frame to November through May.
yes, I would too. You know, the other piece is I'm thinking about this. We say the application must be made in person. If we're looking at a policy that's going to stand us into the future, Zooming and online is now acceptable and very prominent, and you could have an elderly person or someone who has disabilities that coming in person is
Right.
difficult. I know it says you can waive
Under
it,
C,
but
it says you can waive it. But
yeah, so then you have someone that is in that situation that's sort of saying, can you please, but, I mean, why do we make them ask for an exception? But
Yeah.
I just think maybe in person, you need to speak to them personally, but
Oh, I think that's, yeah, I think.
does it need
Yeah,
to be in
an
person?
interview will be required, but it doesn't have to be an in-person interview. Like, it doesn't have to be a,
physical person.
right, like
Yeah.
a, so how would we say
It would
that?
have to be something with, you can see him though. I don't
Right.
want to,
Yeah.
I don't want to
Yeah,
do it none over a phone because you never know who you're talking to.
I think you could Zoom.
Or remotely. Must
Yeah.
be made in person or by remote video, something, whatever we call those things.
Yeah, something. It's just, that's where we're at. So we should
Well,
be
because-
adapting our policies.
Well, I'm looking under application and what I'm thinking of, it wasn't the head of the household that did the request. So whatever our policy is, we need to stick to that policy, correct? At some point. It was someone who
Yeah,
resided in the
in that
household.
instance, Melanie, I talked to both members of that household.
I mean, it really should be the property owner, either husband or wife, or boyfriend or girlfriend, or however that works. I mean, it shouldn't be.
But it could be a tenant.
Somebody's cousin in here because it's for their uncle or something like that. It really should be.
Could be a tenant, though.
It could be a tenant. It might not be a property owner who's making the request. It could be a tenant.
Mhm.
So I think head of household probably still,
Yeah, some kind of head of household.
right.
It's
How
gotta
do
be
you decide
somebody.
who's the head of the household?
You know.
We're getting
Well,
into a lot of
if you're-
gray
if you're a
gray
tenant,
areas here.
whoever's name's on the lease.
Yeah.
You know,
Or on the mortgage.
Right, I mean, you gotta have something to verify who the people are.
So if we change application, if we change A under application to say something about made in person or remotely by video,
Right, we
Must
wouldn't
be
need
then
C.
we wouldn't need C,
You wouldn't need C,
right?
yeah.
Mhm.
And it does treat people with disabilities more equally as well.
Yeah.
Which we should be
Because of course,
cognizant of.
then we're also, yeah, or remotely via scheduled meeting. I mean, do we want to still say
I mean,
Zoom?
it could be FaceTime, it
Could
could
be.
be.
Well, who knows
Right.
with the technology?
Yeah, I would just
And
say
who knows,
remotely.
in 2 years, what we're gonna be, who would have thought 2 years ago, we'd have,
Zoom.
my 95-year-old uncle Zooming me, it just.
All right, so how do you want that to read? Applications for grants or loan from this fund must be made in person or remotely via
Via,
scheduled video conferencing?
or how about via
Because it would need
technical
to-
services available at the time, maybe, gives it
But
more.
if she says tech, what did you say? Video? You had a good phrase for it, whatever you said.
Yeah, via scheduled video conferencing,
Something like,
because, it could be then if somebody calls in, then you set up a time at 10 AM, I can meet with you at such
Right.
and such a link. Or remotely via scheduled video conferencing. In person at the town office, by the head of the, yeah, so why don't, applications of grants and loans from this fund must be made in person at the town office by the head of the household requesting funds, comma, and then tuck the or remotely via a scheduled video conference. Does that sound right?
Mhm.
All right. So we had a couple who. So Dan, you didn't want to extend the time frame.
I don't have a problem with extending it some, I don't know if we need to go all the way from.
Do we want to say like
I-
November 15th through May
Yeah, that gives you an
15th?
extra month, and yeah,
Yeah, I mean, they're good, it's sort of a one-time shot. If you spend it, you're not gonna have it to do another time, so.
Right.
You never know when someone's gonna come up against that wall and need help.
Yes.
I would just keep it simple, just say
November
November
to
to May.
May.
Or November to May. November through May.
What are your thoughts there, Ricky?
I'm fine with it. I think it needs to be redone and brought back to us to look again before we give the okay on it. We
Do
don't,
you want to sit November 15th, May 15th, or are you
That's
comfortable?
fine.
with November to May?
it's-
maybe if you wanna go. November to
doesn't
May.
matter.
All right.
Right, November.
So
As long as
November
we
to
push
May.
them, trying to get the help from other sources first,
Right,
this is the town's kind of the last resort.
Okay, and then applicants to demonstrate future streams of increased disposable income will be considered.
and there's a little typo there in the number 5, applicant's household income /. This needs to,
Your number,
on the signature, the
yes,
last
I
page,
see.
just.
And I
Little
guess,
housekeeping.
and I don't really understand D. Like, applicants who demonstrate future streams of increased disposable income will be considered eligible for up to a 1-year interest-free loan, with the money being used solely for the purpose of purchasing the equivalent amount of heating fuel that is granted to others. What does that mean?
That means if they think that they have income at a future time during the year,
Like, I have
But
a
this would
tax
be-
refund coming.
this would be given as a loan rather than as a grant. That they could be asked to repay it rather than just consider it a gift. A grant.
I just wonder how that would work if they didn't pay it.
Right.
Right, I know.
So I would be in favor of striking that. It's if you qualify for a one-time, the money's available, you don't qualify for general assistance. It's a,
And
It's
does
a
the
gift.
general assistance application ask what your future disposable income?
It
stream
asks
is?
what your it asks what your income is currently, what your anticipated income is for the next 30-day period. But I will say this about general assistance, the bar to qualify for general assistance is so low, you have to essentially have no income. If all you receive is social security, you are not going to qualify for general
Yeah.
assistance. So super low bar.
Where did this come from to begin with? This whole deal?
We started it.
What's that?
We started the program back in 2008.
I know, but I don't
Then
remember
it
that.
was- No, and then it was updated in 2017.
Which was this new document.
I don't
So-
remember it then.
Could be this complicated.
And I don't know, Ricky, if you're on the, I
Yeah,
don't think any of us were on the board at that time. There's
think
a,
that was
there's
That's one
a,
thing, on the back page for the signatures, please type the names.
I want everybody's name on it from now on, because this is terrible.
I can't. read.
Gary, Mike Barrett, Ernie Rice,
The blob, and
and
then,
then who was in
Right.
between?
Ernie,
And then
right,
Ernie
that's where we're
Merkins,
like, no, that's, I was saying this was the blob.
Yeah.
Let me just clarify that, Carol, because we're
who's the
being
second?
recorded.
Is that Michael Barrett? The second
Michael
one?
Barrett, yeah.
Yeah,
I was
so we
on there
would
then.
put everybody's
yeah.
name.
Well, that
on.
must be Rick Dameron's.
So
signature.
Ricky, apparently yours is the one that looks like a
That's
blob.
right. That's right.
I call mine a hen scratch. So,
I do that like I'm a doctor.
you're a doctor or something.
So I have one other suggestion under eligibility, it says retired, the first one's retired families with fixed income, which, no one's gonna argue about that, but it strikes me that one of the things that's missing here is what about families with children? Or we did have the situation last year where there was someone in the household who was medically fragile. Should those be?
And maybe,
Well, I mean,
maybe
I
there's
saw
not
her, I saw her
two
in here that
parents in each household.
part of the criteria, it's a number of dependents and stuff like that, so
Okay.
it's already included there.
Okay.
And it says other families in need at the discretion of.
I think we're all right.
Okay.
Okay.
All right, so we'll bring that one back for review and signature in January.
Yep.
Does that sound good?
Yep.
All right, next up, we have the consideration of a non-residence application to purchase burial plots. Take a motion,
Second.
moved and seconded. That item is open for discussion. So my first thought on this, of course, was that that Charles Stratton had passed away. And I was like, my first thought was, oh my gosh, how long have we been sitting on this application? Because I was like, if they're not getting to us in it, but then I went back and my stuff was like, okay, Charlie passed away in July. There must be another Charlie Stratton
Mhm.
who's a relative, but not the one I'm thinking.
Well, I mean, this application, he meets 2 out of 3, you're only gonna need 1, so.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
I vote to approve it.
And do we get proof of I was born and raised on the West Road in Belgrade, and I'm not saying that he wasn't, but do we go back and just make sure like there's a birth record recorded for the town of Belgrade to verify the information that folks are presenting?
We haven't done that. The other thing, he said he has dozens of family members buried
He does.
there.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
the cemetery committee should basically verify this stuff before it comes to us.
Right,
So-
I mean,
Yeah.
so we didn't see this.
So that's they are working on a rewrite of the ordinance and that is in the ordinance.
Yeah, just-
In the rewrite.
Because that way, they check it out, they verify it, they come to us,
Yeah.
Right,
make the recommendation.
that makes sense.
Yeah, because it seems like, if they submitted this November 6th, that's a long time for them to take for a decision.
Right, especially if someone has passed away. If someone it sounds like no one has, but if
Right, it
someone,
was a different Charlie Stratton.
yeah,
It's a national-
The nephew, right. Oh, yeah, I was back in the family tree, like trying to figure it out.
I
All right,
move we
so-
approve it.
All right, so Carol's made that motion.
I'll second it.
Motion. Did you make a
I
motion?
did, but that's fine. That's fine.
All right, so Carol made a motion, Ricky seconded. Any further discussion? All right, seeing none. Ricky,
Yes.
Barbara,
Yes.
Carol,
Yes,
Dan.
Yes,
All right, 5 yeses.
see, there's ways around these applications anyway, too. If one of his relatives just bought an extra plot, Sparing.
No. How many are they purchasing?
4
Okay,
spaces.
and the burial lot is 4 spaces.
No, there are a lot of however many you want to buy.
Right, burial lots, how many, a space is one burial space,
Yeah.
so if that's one spot for one
One
cat,
casket of 3
or three,
cremations.
three
3
cremations,
ends, right? So are they buying 1?
they're buying 4.
4 spaces.
So they're buying 4 spaces.
Right.
Okay,
So it could be 4 caskets or it could be 12 urns.
You know,
I just don't want to
Or
have
some
riff raff that
combination.
doesn't
Some
have ties to
combination.
Belgrade getting buried here.
One can call an
That's
eight,
why,
one
that's
can
why
call-
before we changed the ordinance, I came with like 10 of them.
I'm making my kids plant a tree with me in it. And they're like, of course you are, Mom.
Just as a comment, if we have, you had sent out the proposed cemetery ordinance or whatever, I have 2 or 3 things on that. Who should I send those to?
Oh, you can send it to Mr. Galush,
To
no,
Mr.
actually,
Glue?
Mr. Hano.
Mr. Hano.
And Phil Sprague.
Who?
Phil Sprague's the chair of the cemetery.
Oh, and who is it?
Phil Sprague
Oh, okay, fine. I just,
and Mike Keno's once doing all the writing. Mike Keno's got hours and hours into this.
But if you want to send it to me, I'll make sure Mike gets it.
okay, all right.
All right, next up, we have the consideration of property tax abatements. So I'll take a motion to open that item.
Someone-
Moved and seconded. That item's open for discussion. So we have 3 property tax abatements for the same piece of property. Similar case that we saw earlier in which a trio conversion resulted in an inactive account becoming active. These errors were discovered during the process of filing liens. The abatement is $382.96 for each of the 3 years for a total of $1,148.88.
I'll make that motion.
Do you want to make a motion on the whole amount since it's going
Yes.
to the same person? Okay. So Ricky's would be abatement 2019-11, abatement 2020-08, and abatement 2021-08.
Second.
All right, moved and seconded. All those in favor, Ricky,
Yes,
Barbara,
Yes,
Carol,
Yes,
Dan.
I don't think I can vote on this one. Isn't it?
Oh, you can't vote, you're an assessor. So 4 yeses. Phew. All right. Then we have, next up, we have a consideration of paying unpaid property taxes that are less than $10 from the overlay. Take a motion to open that item. Moved and seconded. It's open for discussion. So we have 22 instances of 2021 taxes owed that are less than $10 per account, ranging from 9 cents to $8.78 for a grand total of $54.96. So how do we end up with that?
how do we end up with all these weird ones?
Because people pay their taxes late and don't fully account for the interest. That's almost exclusively the case with these.
So that
So
we
we're
don't,
giving them a free ride then, if we don't charge them.
Some would
for the
argue that
interest.
part.
When,
I think we should just add it on to the following year's taxes.
yeah, I mean, if you
probably the bookkeeping on this is more than the amount of money that,
probably.
absolutely.
Or it is, but the problem is,
Some people probably do it year after
they'll do it year after year after year after
in
year.
multiple properties.
Yeah.
Somebody has 5 properties.
well, if they didn't figure it appropriately for one, they probably weren't going to figure appropriately for the others.
Well, and isn't it our job to figure it appropriately and get the right amount of money from them?
No, it's their responsibility to send us the right amount of money. So legally, we don't even have to send tax bills, but we do that. And I will have to say, Nick and our clerks do, I think, yeoman's work notifying people time and time again to, once the deadline is passed, get this paid. If someone calls and they say, hey, I forgot to pay my taxes, how much is it? We'll tell them what the amount is with the interest as of that date, but we will also counsel them. Now, by the time we receive your check, that interest will increase. So you might want to increase that by $5 the case is. And so it is a constant stream of communication to try to get people to pay so that we don't have to file liens and so that at some point they're not facing foreclosure.
For $6.
Yeah, right.
And usually those cases are for more than $6. But
I just think the bookkeeping on this is crazy to carry it.
Bruce?
So is there a way to keep a record to make sure you don't have the same people doing the same thing year after year after year, and we're doing this year after year? That's, that's what I
Well,
would
we
recommend.
could keep this in the record, and next year when it comes up, if they're the same people, we
Good
address
question.
it then.
If they send us a check for their taxes,
mhm,
and it's not the correct amount,
mhm.
we have to accept it.
We don't, but I would say that we should.
Well, I'm just
Because-
wondering if you turn around and send it back, don't say, no, it's not the right amount, send us the correct amount.
I would be afraid that we might not get that money back at some point.
Well, then eventually.
Eventually,
their taxes are gonna
yes,
go-
but-
Well, their taxes are gonna go.
Yeah,
into
eventually,
arrears
but-
and,
Yeah, eventually, but we'd rather have their money than their property.
yeah, I do, well, I'm just, like I said, I don't want the same person doing it over and over again, yeah, it may be $10, but if they do it for 10 years,
Well, it's like if somebody trades in a vehicle and they're like, oh, I've got my payoff, this is what my loan is. And I say, I need your payoff amount for the next 10 days. So then you say, here's your loan amount today, and it changes by $2.48 per day until this is paid.
so Connor's not gonna eat that money.
They don't ever eat it. They're gonna be like, this is what you owe because this is good for 10 days. If we don't take this in 10 days, then we get a new payoff. But
Well, and again, really advocating for this, it's the board's decision. If you guys decide, you know what, no, we're not gonna do this, then their names are gonna end up in the book and eventually we'll collect. most for all of this money.
$54.96.
What have we done in the past?
We paid it.
So at some points in time, town employees have paid this out of their own pocket, just not to be bothered.
That's just wrong. I don't ever want people doing that.
Well, and we had someone in our office who said, I'll just pay it. And I said, no, we're not, we're not.
No.
No.
It's your responsibility to help your neighbors, but it's not your responsibility to pay their bad debt, even if it's $8.
Yeah, I know it's a pain, I just, it's the principle of the thing that bothers me.
Well, and then I'm thinking if we send what the postage would be, if we send.
Yeah, the
repeated
stamps more than the
notices.
first
Right,
5 or
right,
6 of them.
Right.
Maybe we ought to look at $5 and under.
What if we,
Can't
Can't we just put on their tax bill next
To
year,
each of these people.
courtesy payment this year and see if we can get the 8 cents or the 5.34 or,
No, because those things go out automatically, so it's not
oh,
like we
okay.
slip notes into those.
Yeah.
Or stuff the envelopes ourselves.
I mean, by the time you bill them and you pay a stamp and you pay the staff time to do it,
The
we're
other- the
losing
other thing
money.
You may want to check into, just another idea to look at. Check and see if you can do that. Because it's like, say you owe credit card debt, and the credit card company writes it off. They're supposed to send you a 1099. They're supposed to claim that on your taxes the following year. The difference because you made money.
I guess if I were someone and I got published because I didn't pay 49 cents, it would make me very grumpy as a taxpayer.
I've been told that's been the case in the past.
Huh?
I've been told that's been the case in the past.
And then you have all,
So
The annual
what
report says they're very
if,
effective tax collection.
it is
I
very,
would think.
yeah.
And
That's the
it used
first
to be-
thing anybody goes. "Wasn't
That's the
paid the
first
tax."
thing
Yeah.
don't tell.
I know, and you know,
oh,
And
absolutely.
who do you know that didn't pay?
Right.
And then you're like,
It used to be
20 yeah.
20 years ago, 15 years ago, there was another Barbara Allen in Belgrade who was.
Sure there
al-
was.
Who was always late with her taxes, and I met her in the grocery store one time because we had a common acquaintance.
And you were like, oh, it's
I said,
you.
oh, you're the one who doesn't pay your taxes.
Well, like I said, I would find out if you really Because you're giving away town money.
well, I know that we
Legally
can't,
supposed to collect it. I don't know if you.
yeah, and I know that we can't simply forgive it. That's why we say pay it from the overlay, because we can't just waive someone's taxes.
That couldn't be put on their bill for the next year.
It could be, Rick, they're still gonna end up in the report and yeah, so it could be. And it will, of course, continue to accrue interest in the meantime as well.
But
Well-
if they've already received notification about this, have they received notification that they owe 9 cents?
Yes,
Yes, so then they have no right to get upset. If
Right,
they-
I mean,
That's, yeah,
If they've already been notified 2 or 3 times that they have this outstanding bill, then it's their problem.
I know it's a pain, but I don't think you ought to just. If someone doesn't want to pay something. just walk away.
so, and I
you
guess.
paid 3 times to notify them already, so you've already spent.
Right.
55
Yeah.
another
55
dollar,
cents
you know.
times 3 plus the
Right.
paper plus the
Yeah,
time. plus
I
the-
don't know. I think we're all in agreement. Put them in the book,
Yeah.
you know, and
Yeah.
if,
Tough.
and everyone who calls to complain, say, I'm sorry, we've gone above and beyond. And to you, it's 9 cents, but at the end of the year, our books have to balance. So it's your responsibility to pay your 9 cents. Swing in here with a dime, we'll give you a penny.
No, by the time you get here, you're gonna be paying us 15 cents. so.
That's right, because we're gonna tack a penny on a day. You show up.
And then they're gonna send us a check for 14 cents and they're gonna owe 15. And
Right. But I mean, does that sound,
I do, like I said, I don't think you should write it off just because somebody doesn't want to pay the interest, you know, that, oh, I'm just gonna send it in 30 days late. They'll write off the interest. People do that on bills all the time.
well, they do, and I feel like,
Being in business, that happens to me all the time, and unfortunately,
Some businesses do take it, some will send you a bill. And some will send you a bill with the billing charge on it too.
yep.
well, and I feel like too, when you're talking to people about stuff, and they'll say, well, but I pay my mortgage every time, and I'm like, but you were late 9 months, 9 times out of 12. So if you paid on the 15th and it's due on the 1st, the mortgage company's like, yeah, you paid it. We still tagged you because you were 15 days late. So it's.
Or they couldn't read your writing and get, you know, instead of 34 cents, you put 43 cents,
Right.
you know.
All right, so are we putting them in the book?
I don't want that. I mean,
Okay.
some people need to learn personal responsibility.
So we are gonna, this is the tough love club here, guys.
That's right.
You guys do whatever you want. That's my vote.
well, if anyone complains, I'm gonna tell them it's just tough luck.
That's right, it's tough love. That's how we're doing stuff now in
Bring it
Belgrade.
up.
You can refer this cost to Dan.
You said
Someone
something-
talk to the legislator.
Forward ed.
They'll be like, I don't recognize that number. I'm gonna let them go to voicemail.
Actually, most everything goes to voicemail. I have to figure out at the end of the day who I'm calling back.
I just had a flash of a person from earlier. I'm like, oh, I just got to call that guy back before I left work. I didn't do that in the morning. Just doing that same thing, left me a voicemail. All right, next we have the consideration of accepting petitions for special requests.
Hang on for a minute. What are we doing on that last one?
We're putting them in the book.
Okay, I'm fine.
We're doing a consideration.
Thank you.
Do we want to vote on that?
No, he's fine.
Leave it the way it is.
Just leave it the way it is, put them in the book. We're so mean.
Don't let any stuff.
Okay, so what,
Yeah, no, I won't.
so I'll take a motion to open up this item.
So moved.
So be it.
All right, moved and seconded. So for the newest folks here, the social services requests used to come before the board. And they would come to our budget workshop and present their case and get grilled on how much the administrators make and all those things. And the reality of it is if you collect petition signatures and it's more than, was it 10% of the last gubernatorial race? Then as long as the signatures are verified, you have taken the time to put together a petition, we cannot deny them the right to have that on the town warrant.
Right.
So we've eliminated some of the stuff in the middle. And this is what we've received for petition applications for social service requests.
It still has to go before us during budget day though. Because we still either vote, make recommendations whether we're for it or against it. It goes on, but we still decide whether we recommend it or not.
Do we do them
Right.
individually or can we do them together?
We usually do them individually,
Okay.
because there's a couple of them that I usually
Yeah.
don't recommend.
Well, and Mary suggested that this just be an acceptance of the petitions and then we'll do the recommendations. I was figuring out our
Yeah,
January.
yeah,
At a
That's what
petition.
you mean.
yeah, but as long as we each come before us.
Yes.
For the recommendation, either for or against.
All right, so I make a motion that we accept the petition from Spectrum Generations in the amount of $1,488.
Second,
Moved and seconded. All those in favor, Ricky?
Yep,
Yeah,
Yes.
Carol,
yes.
Barbara.
Yes,
All right, 5 yeses.
If we can't not accept them, why do we?
Yeah,
have to
why
go
do
through
we
this
have to-
process?
This is what Mary suggested that we do. So it's, I mean, you know.
We'll just,
Why don't we just say we'll
Just-
accept the
we'll
petitions?
accept, just do
all
them
of
all.
we'll accept all the petitions.
Yeah.
That's my,
that's what we
changing
normally
my,
do.
them, 'cause
all right, so I'm gonna take back my vote.
Okay, me too.
Rescind?
rescind.
Rescind.
Rescind. All right, I make a new motion that we accept these 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 petitions,
Qualifying.
qualifying petitions for special requests.
I'll second that.
Okay, moved and seconded and thirded. Any further discussion? Seeing none. Barbara? Carol?
Yes.
Dan?
Yes.
Ricky?
Yes,
All right, 5 yeses.
So
All
even
right.
though they don't have to come before us, doesn't our staff still have to verify the signatures? It still takes.
Yeah.
They've
As
already
long as
done
Mary,
that.
as long as they've already verified them, we're accepting them.
Yeah,
So
I know,
that's-
I know, but I'm
that's
saying it's
qualified.
still, it's,
Right.
even though they don't come before us, it's
Yeah.
still town time and effort to verify
Right.
the signature.
Yes.
But by doing this, it's less than the amount. It used to be like 15 or 20 of these things every town meeting.
I know.
Everybody wanted money. Now they actually have to work hard a little bit.
You don't get so many.
All right, I'll take a motion to open town warrant.
So moved.
Second,
All right, that is open for discussion. And this is the regular warrant or
This
the,
is a regular warrant, but it's the final warrant of the year.
so this is the final warrant right here.
Okay, because I have one in the book and we have one here. Are they two
Oh,
different?
They,
okay.
this is
Yeah,
the
one of them,
updated
they look
one.
like they're the same, because it's
Yeah.
1:08 PM.
I printed them out this afternoon. I was kind of harried. I couldn't remember if I put them in the books or not. You all had your books, so
Okay. So they're the same.
they're the same.
Okay, because I was like, well, I don't have time while I'm at work to kind of cross check these, so
Well,
I
mine
cross checked a
was-
bunch. I
Mine
was
was in
like,
my book, but I got my book yesterday. You
yeah,
didn't print it off- you didn't print it off today. You must print it off yesterday.
Yes, I printed it off yesterday, put it in the books. I forgot about that.
Oh, okay.
Reprinted it today.
okay, so I hand scratched all over this one, but, so it is warrant number 151 in the amount of $58,711.45. So now it's open for discussion. So I have a question on why it's costing so much for heating the North Belgrade Community Center. Kind of looking down through it, I'm like, it's a third of the Center for All Seasons. How often is it open? What temperature are we keeping that at? It seems like, it's 267, is that?
What's your consumption there? Does it have?
No, and we never seem to get that. What we get
You
is
must have
just a
filtered,
blanket.
Because I know, unfortunately, the fuel company sometimes makes a mistake of which building they're delivering at on their bills. I found out that, because we had a question on this last year, and it was, they were putting the wrong building down.
So, because I'm just like, it just seems like a lot for that space and maybe,
That's all energy efficient.
Yeah, and we-
Equipment in there.
right, and we've kind of replaced what we needed to in there, so it feels like it should be.
But I think they keep in place 70 degrees in there, because when I went up and did the extinguishers that day, it was not a soul using it. Nobody was in it, and the place was just.
So the thermostats ain't getting turned down.
So,
Yeah, I imagine, of course, it gets used for the food pan. So that's probably right. It's probably set on, no one ever messes
So
with it.
that will use,
So, yeah, and I wonder if maybe
can-
we should put a smart.
well, that's what I was
figure
just
that
gonna say. Can we put something in that could be controlled from somebody's
we put
cell
this-
phone or something?
Yeah, we put that thermostat.
Yeah. Put
Mhm.
something in so that, every once in a while.
So it says the volume delivered is 130.9.
It's not huge.
Yeah.
What is that?
The price of fuel is.
Right.
2.047.
So 130 gallons, and you don't know when the last delivery was there. 130 gallons.
Delivered
That's
December the
true.
10th.
Yes, but you gotta remember, that's the same amount of money we spent to heat the Lakes Fire Station that somebody's in all day, every day.
Okay, so I'll check on some sort of an app.
That's a Nest, it's a Nest.
Yeah,
thermostat.
I'm sorry,
Called a Nest,
a Nest.
yeah, I can.
Bruce can check on that.
So then it can be like turned down overnight, turned back, it'll come back up an hour
Yeah.
before people are using
Yeah,
the
you can
building.
program it for the days that.
Right, plus you
Right.
use it as a no heat alarm.
And as senior programs built there, it might be used more.
Right,
That could be why they're keeping it at a certain temperature, but if we do put a Nest in, we can get the place warmed up before the senior programs happen, and so the place is warm. That could be why they're leaving it at a straight 70, is so the place is not cold when the seniors get
You
there.
don't need to, I mean, we don't keep our house at 70, we keep our house at 68, so it doesn't have to be.
Wow, that's generous. From my house.
We don't heat the upstairs.
My thermostat's about 62.
You don't want to come to my house.
I do a conscious effort where I'm like, I pay for this heat, I'm actually gonna be a little bit warm in my house, but then I've got the kids' spare bedrooms are closed off.
Right.
And I'm all irritated when Maddie comes and she leaves her door wide open. I'm like, I don't need to be heating that space. Okay, so that was one question I had. And then the transfer station heater for the new office, where are we at money wise on that? Because we had budgeted for a certain amount. And I want to make sure that we're staying within that amount.
There was, I believe Kenny had checked, and there's still actually some money left in that 10,000, I think.
Okay, let me check on that and I'll get back. to you on that.
Do you know
'Cause
why
of-
we put shrink wrap on it? That's about-
No.
What's the question?
Why you did shrink wrapping on the rescue boat?
Is it usually stored outside?
Oh, probably because we had a lot of problem with dust and stuff last year, and then the radio and the electronics.
$500 got a shrink wrap. That's nuts. $435 got a shrink wrap.
Yeah, but I think
Is that
we
'cause
spent
there's
more
no
on
way-
that for
place to
repairs
keep it
on
inside?
electronics. That's inside. I believe it's inside. Usually goes inside for the bill.
Usually. But it'd be easier. Put a bag over the radio.
I don't know if it's a radio for the electronics, so. Because we got all that zone on.
I don't know.
We got,
Maybe next year we can sit down at the fire department, kind of see if we can find a way just to wrap the console, even if we tarps around it. I mean, that's a lot of money.
Get some
Store
saran
a
wrap,
boat.
have a party.
I know, I'm picturing like those giant rolls.
Yeah.
Sample.
I'm just curious. I just didn't
I mean,
remember. I didn't remember a shrink. before.
no, that wasn't done up really last year.
All right, and then a couple other things I noticed. We've got blue tarps for Dalton. I'm assuming that's for the roof.
Correct.
So we spent $24.74 for that. But then a little further down, we bought a tarp for $55 to cover lumber. And
That's because we can't get the lumber in the garage and store it.
We're working on it.
So we can't get the lumber into the heated garage that we pay to heat, and what's in there that's in the way?
Vehicles,
You know,
which you guys are talking about?
the one down underneath the apartment.
Yeah,
Hold
I don't think that one's heated actually.
Yeah.
But it's not, there's a garage.
It's
space.
not heated, but you can't get in there because the guy was renting upstairs. That's all this stuff in it.
Yeah. I don't-
Oh, so, yeah, so that lumber is for the addition at the garage.
Up here, I
So it's,
Okay.
Okay.
so it's two different
I figured it
locations.
was lumber for down there.
Now, if we're buying a giant tarp though for $60, we're keeping the tarps, right?
Yes,
And reusing them. Please. Now, nails for the garage too, 231, is that? That's a lot of nails, is that
That's a
nails for
lot.
the addition?
Yeah, that's a box of nails. I think.
Yeah, I'm sure it's for a nail gun. or
Yeah.
I was like, this would be, big. That's what I was picturing was like a nail gun, but I
Yeah,
was
that's
like,
not a lot of nails nowadays.
So it's $70 a box for spikes.
and my other question was Dalton's electricity was, why is that one so high? $263 a month?
Property,
It's, well, it just said 8 Dalton.
8 shouldn't be high because the well's actually on 10.
Well, so 8 is 263 and 10 is 68. So I'm like, that is a huge discrepancy.
Yeah, because the well runs off of 10.
And so we charge them extra, right? So they're paying a little more in rent because they're covering their heat and electricity, correct?
Yeah.
Do you know, Anthony?
yes.
Okay, so but I'm curious if we're charging 8 enough to cover, I mean, $263
Okay.
a
I'll call
month for
Lois
electricity.
tomorrow.
I'm like,
Check.
Yeah.
every light's on in the house
Yeah, I
and
can't
we're
imagine why
running.
why that electricity is so high because it's not electric hot water either.
Well, because that was my
It's on
thought, was I
demand.
was like, well, geez, is there like the hot water tank is on that? Like, what is it that's?
Is it possible that they get the bills reversed 8 and 10? Because 10 has electric hot water heater.
Mhm.
The water pump runs off of 10. So you got should have more electric use there. It's an on-demand hot water heater and 8.
No, is 10 the single person who's there though? So it maybe isn't being used all the time, like quite as much? Is there one person living in each location?
Now, there's 2 people in the garage, I mean, in the garage apartment,
Yeah,
and there's multiple people in the house.
yeah, it's multiples and they.
So. Yeah, well, maybe we just want to start keeping an eyeball on that, and if it,
Yeah, let's find out if they can flip flop the bills too for starters.
Yeah,
Okay.
And
because
then
to me, that sounds like a flip flop.
Okay.
and then my other question is, we paid $14 for a Facebook ad? What is that?
We're trying something different to promote a library event. And so, so if you want to boost an event on Facebook, you have to put a little money into it. So seeing if that's a more effective way of using our advertising dollars.
like my political stuff on my local page. If you want regional people, you have to pay $100 to boost your house.
Oh, see, I don't know these things.
I don't post.
And Height Ford, this truck inspection, is that our new truck? And state inspections are they not free if it's a heavy duty truck?
It's a new- Like I say,
$70 at O'Connor's.
if it's a new truck, it shouldn't need an inspection
It's
yet.
private pickup.
Well, that's what I was wondering. I was just like,
Why did it go all the way up? So, yeah,
Places right in town that do inspections
they all need to spend a lot of money in gas to take it up there. That's
and
it.
labor.
Yeah,
So this invoice does not indicate which truck it is. So I'll have to ask Chris.
it should say on the invoice, there should be a VIN number up in and an odometer reading.
Not on this one.
Yes, I should say that, it's a 2,500 or.
Yeah.
sometimes they'll have a license plate number or something on it.
I mean, it doesn't say anything. It just has account number town 99.
And the invoice is from Height?
Yes.
Oh, there is some lame invoicing. man.
Yeah.
How are you supposed to keep track of that if you have more than one vehicle?
Well, I think we need to find out why it's going up all the way to height to be inspected too.
I will.
All right, I'm gonna keep bugging at this, guys, sorry. Marshall grinding, the wood grinding transfer, I put a little side note on here. Are we getting any money back from that?
Not the demo wood,
Not for the demo one.
yeah, or the brush, it's a flat, the brush is a flat. Doesn't process anything, and the demo wood, you'll see in the budget, that we had to increase the budget because that went up $20 a ton.
Oh.
So demo wood is nothing.
Because we were talking about increasing the fees for the demo wood.
We actually, we're looking into that now, but right now it looks like we're just about breaking even, we are breaking even on it.
Okay.
And you'll recall you increased the fees on the brush.
Oh,
earlier this
right,
year.
the brush,
Yeah.
not the demo one.
So for commercial customers.
Right,
I mean, I don't have a problem with not making money on the demo wood, but I don't want it to cost us money. But
That's my biggest thing, and that's why it's coming up on our,
right.
we had quite a few people that wasn't at the last meeting, so we didn't really address it that much. We just hit the stuff that needed to be hit.
Yeah. But because, yeah, I mean, we used to get money back on it, and then I think at one point we chipped it and we offered the stuff to the citizens. You could come get a pickup load of chip, you know.
And if you're gonna do that, you're gonna be paying quite a bit of money to chip it.
Okay. Well, because I think we had a pretty good gig going there for a bit with that. But,
Well, yeah.
you know,
you
it's
could
10
get-
years fast forward
Yeah.
now.
Well, it's,
Is it because, wasn't there a mill or something that?
Girls used to
Grinding
take
was
a lot of
taking-
chicken and shut down.
no, what it boiled down to is the main EPA has made it more difficult to burn that stuff. So it was actually Sappy that was burning it, and Sappy stopped burning it. It was Sappy Re-Energy got rid of it first because they was gonna spend millions of dollars for another scrubber in, and Sappy had the scrubbers, and then EPA wanted a different scrubber, and so, but it was difficult. Every load had to be tested to make sure it was under 10% of pressure treated, but once they passed that new lead law, that's when things really went big.
Okay, Marcus. All right, this was just a side thing. We did all the water testing on all of the locations, and we don't generally get something back that tells us how the testing came out. Are all the results good?
Yes.
No.
That's an absolute no.
Which one? Oh,
Yes,
Um,
waiting for pricing back. We're gonna have
at
to put a
the fire
uranium,
station.
a whole, what we call a whole system, uranium system at the fire station. Because the uranium's gone up there. I had him redo Dalton property. The first sample he took, he mistakenly contaminated it, so it came back showing bacteria. There's no bacteria. And do a second test. The pH levels, which I'm finding now, I've been tracing it a little bit. So when the pH levels are dropping in the wells, that's when we're starting to see the uranium increasing. So the pH has dropped at the Center for All Seasons, which once the pH starts dropping, everything gets acidic, and that's eating all your fixtures, all your water lines. And so the center is getting very drastically low on the pH, and so isn't the Dalton properties.
So what do you do to increase the pH?
Yeah, put treatment in. Basically, you put lime, it's a bed, but it's got lime, charcoal, and stuff like that. Your water runs through that and brings the pH back up to neutral.
Okay.
So, yes, I don't know what's different, what's causing the uranium I know uranium's, I don't know if Carol has it at her house.
Yeah, I
but
do.
it's pretty rancid down through the lakes.
Right, because we were talking about that. All right, and the fire station, because of the volume of water, we can't.
Well, for one, that's a public water source. A lot of people get their drinking water from there.
They do?
Yep.
Why?
when people get drinking water.
Fire station, it's also considered a warming station too, isn't it?
Yeah.
So we have to,
We actually use it, we've actually used it several times for shelters, for a shelter.
same thing with the community center down there. So the warming station, we have to maintain all
Because we
But-
can't do baths because we
Yeah,
can't
but-
shower.
But the other thing is we wash our fire gear. And we're already accepted to enough dangerous chemicals. I don't think we should be accepted to uranium in our fire gear.
But if we do that whole big system, is that the one that was like 13 grand and then so much up front and then 13,000 a year or something? Is that what we?
No, I got a system in at the altars up there. It's probably $8,000 to $10,000 system, but all it is just maintaining it every year. There's not that much to do to it.
Okay.
You just, but your expense is doing tests every 6 months. You know, you got to test every 6 months. That's your biggest expense. You know, it is expensive to rebed it when it has to be rebed, but your biggest expense is the initial expense and then doing the doing the test every 6 months after you do your initial test. So I'm waiting back for pricing on that stuff.
Well, I guess I'm glad I asked.
So is that something then that we need to build into the lakes
Budget.
budget?
Yeah, into that building budget.
You think we'll have that quote before January 5th?
Yes. And I was actually shocked I didn't have, I was hoping to have it for tonight, so I knew that was on the warrant tonight, so I was hoping to have it for tonight, but I didn't.
Sorry, I really did scratch all over this, you guys.
Library annual security, that's for the alarm system.
Yes, sir.
Do we pay that? Or does the library, people own the building pay that?
I don't know, that's a good question.
And isn't this what we asked to have go in was the,
So they installed the video system last week, but this is just the annual burglar alarm. So
Which is part of the building. I just didn't know if it's. Obviously, we don't own the alarm system down there. We don't own the building.
All right, precision concrete floors on page 10. This is the one that the pad for the slab came out $10,000 more than what we anticipated. So,
10,000.
$500.
500.
oh,
$500.
500.
It's supposed to be 9,300,
it was
90,
supposed to be 9800.
9,800.
9,800.
Sorry, I was thinking we came in one more. So just, I mean, I know it's one of those things we have to do now because it was okayed. But in the future, if something comes in over budget, I don't know if we want to build that into job descriptions. But if something comes in over budget, I'd like to see that the supervisor of that budget still has to have a second check process. It has to go through the town manager. You have to ask if this is okay
We had a discussion.
and get the okay. But not just that one, I mean, any department, if Annie gets a quote for something and just okays it, I think it really needs, everything that we do that's budgetary and affects our bottom line, there needs to be a second okay. Just so we don't get ourselves into any pickles.
The only biggest problem would run on that is emergency stuff.
Is there anything that we budget for, like an emergency budget though? So I'm thinking like,
Heating it, say for instance, we lose this boiler on a Friday night. I gotta change it. Anthony's on vacation and facilities, the only person here to give you okay for that.
so then you call Melanie or whoever the chair of the board is, because you gotta have two people that say go for it.
That's an instant. That the water, we had a water pump at the fire station last year. That was another incident.
That's emergency situation.
Right.
Yeah, like the other stuff, I am worried about.
All right, and then did we replace the septic tank at the Center for All Seasons?
Yes.
Little blurbs about that would be.
Well,
I think I did email you guys about that.
that went from
It's part of just an update of
right.
different.
That went from a pump station to a septic tank. So we've been spending a lot of money for sewer pumps up there because the children flush
Yeah.
underwear and socks and stuff. And it would go straight into the grinder station, and that grinder station, then the other fear I was getting is, so this stuff is going in a 2-inch line, it goes underneath the Center for All Seasons out into the other septic tank. Well, we probably should be separating the solids, having the solids pump and just pumping fluid underneath there instead of pumping solids. So that's, because I think we put,
You want to dig up the gym floor?
yeah, I think in the last 8 years, I think we put 3 pumps in there, maybe 4.
Well, and and I guess there's this part of it that says, who's watching the kids?
Oh, so you can't watch them in the bathroom.
Well, you can't watch them in the bathroom, but if you know if a kid goes in with a t-shirt on and they come out without one,
That's because it's when they change. They go in and change to go from daytime clothes to swimming clothes.
so then I guess we've got to have a policy in place that says, you know, a sign on the toilet that says nothing goes in the toilet except pee and poop.
Well,
You know.
unfortunately, we
The problem is taken care of now. You won't have,
don't have it. Unless it, plug sewer or whatever, but it's,
All right, and so is this the extra water test was because we had to redo the one? Okay, because I was like, well, look at this little random one over here. All right, I'm done picking it apart. And I was bored last night with my pen.
yeah, but did you get a copy of the water sample? Water test? Chris can't pour them, so I've never poured them for you. He should be able to, he poured them all things, so.
Oh, I did have one other one, sorry. Jason fixed a sign for $182. We needed a 1-ton. What was that?
I don't know what that is.
Did I hit them off?
New Ford tail light, that must be the town pickup.
It is.
Did we back
that-
into
I don't
something?
know, but he had it fixed to Warren Automotive. I think Warren probably could have done the inspection. on it.
Did anybody else have anything?
No.
I know we're
You
exhausted
really
now.
nailed it, Melanie.
Well, I was like, what are these water tests? Like, yeah, let's check on this stuff. All right, if there's nothing else, I will make a motion that we approve warrant item 151 in the amount of $58,711.45. All right, I mean, there's no further discussion. Barbara,
Yes.
Carol,
Yes.
Ricky,
yes.
Em?
Yes,
All right, 5 yeses. All right, next up, we have the town manager report.
Okay, so speaking of the warrant, we're gonna start working on that for the January 5th meeting. Because our hope is that we can get some of those warrants approved with the recommendations that Dan mentioned earlier. And so just want to see if you want any changes to this formatting like this, what we did last year, which we did actuals and then what was proposed.
So I remember what we said last year was that we want to see a 2019 copy. That we don't just want,
So in this instance, are you talking about a 2021 budget, a 2021 actuals, and then a 2022 proposed?
I think what she's saying, and now they correct me. So you're gonna want a 2021 actual, a 20 actual, and a 22 proposed, correct?
yes,
I think that's what was brought up
So
last
2
year.
years of actuals.
yeah. Yeah, just because it helps the taxpayers track the amount and it keeps us,
Well, it's easier for these to figure it out. So.
yeah.
Okay.
And instead of having,
you don't need that to be signed.
oh, did I sign them both?
I signed it.
Well, I
Wait,
did, because
another
then
one here.
I was like, well, which one is that? Also, just in the interest of saving space, can we have the select board recommendation and then the budget recommendation right after it. So then we lose in trying to keep the size of the book down. If we're eliminating double spacing between select board and budget committee and it's on one line.
Oh, just all on one line?
Yep, so select board recommendation, budget committee recommendation. It always did,
Oh, it did.
yep. And that's what I put in on that. And then the question about what you'd like added on the whiteboard is, I really
This says sign all three.
catch. Is I really want to make sure that we don't fall off with, I would like the transfer station to get working on a 3-year, a 5-year, and a 10-year plan. Center for All Seasons, what do we need to do for maintenance? What do we have for upcoming projects? North Belgrade Community Center, what do we need to do for maintenance? Town office, what do we need to be doing for maintenance? So that we've got a clear schedule moving forward of what projects we have to tackle. We don't start a project and not finish it. So that's what I'd like.
I voted against it, so we can't
Oh.
vote against that.
So everyone signed this.
Yes.
Yeah.
So that's my
Yeah.
takes on those. Anybody else have input on those? Anybody got any ideas for the whiteboard?
I had refund policy, but it's already there.
Da-da-da-da.
So, two other quick things. One is we extended an offer to a code enforcement officer candidate last night. I emailed you guys about that earlier today. And then I texted Ricky a little earlier, but I was going to check with
We
him
sign these in any
to
order.
see what our road conditions are in the morning, because schools have already shut down. And the state has decided that they're not going to open it until 11. So I'll be calling
I'm driving the course in the morning.
Rick and Chris bright and early to see how our roads are.
Yeah, and I'd like to see the town office open. If we open late, I'd rather not just see it completely closed.
Yeah, well, I've got a ton of work to do because I'm gonna be off next week and I'm gonna try to get the January 3rd packet as much done as possible this week. So I will be here. So, yeah, I can't foresee us being close.
Then you're only open up Thursday, right? Because you're closed Friday, Saturday.
That's correct.
Yeah.
That's all I had.
Anybody else have anything? All right, I'll take a motion to adjourn.
Be
Good ass, woo, 8:17,
Ooh.
kicking butt and taking names. All right, moved and seconded. Barbara,
Yes.
Carol,
Yes.
Dan,
Yes.
Ricky.
Well, I don't know. Yes.
You think about it?
You're overruled.
All right, good night, everybody. Thank you for coming.
Not very many people listening.